Okay, so I'm going to be giving some reasons why the affirmative plan of action will not work and some disadvantages to go along with that. So my opponent's main claim is that direct vote would be a better solution to the Electoral College. Direct vote would not work because, first, several alternatives like this have been proposed many times but have not passed. Second, the change would not be worth the trouble. Third, it is not a popular process of voting in other countries and has proved to be unsuccessful. If direct popular vote were to take the place of the Electoral College, the disadvantages that would come along with this would be small states would lose their significance and minority groups. The possibility of a third party could lead to political instability, and this leaves a direct vote would cause more room for error and fraud in the recounting process. So for my first claim, direct vote would not work because it has been proposed before but has not passed. According to Chuck Rash, a GNS political writer, there has been more than 700 different attempts to change the Electoral College since its inception. Yet we still see the Electoral College standing today. Of those 700 attempts, direct vote has been included in this many times. On govtrack.us, I found proposed an amendment in House Joint Resolution 36 of March 2009 to abolish the Electoral College and provide for a direct election of president by popular vote of all citizens of the U.S. and said that it was introduced in a previous session of Congress but was never enacted. Next to this, I found a link that said similar bills, which led me to a search containing 13,681 similar bills to this one. Of course, I did not look through every single one of these, but the ones I did look at, none of them were enacted. If direct vote has been shot down this many times, I think we can likely conclude from this that it is not going to pass, thus proving my point why direct vote would not work. Secondly, direct vote will not work because difficulty in changing the current system would not be worth the trouble. The reason why direct vote did not pass when it was proposed so many times was because it had to pass a demanding process that a majority must agree upon. In order to abolish the Electoral College and replace it with direct vote, a constitutional amendment must be approved by 2/3 of Congress as well as a ratification by 3/4 of the states. Like my partner stated before, direct vote would decrease the power of small states, so why would small states ever agree to pass direct vote? Because of this trouble with agreement and flaws with the direct vote process, it would not be worth the trouble to get rid of the Electoral College. Jill Steinberg of the Chicago Sun-Times quotes, "America is change-averse and would rather cling to an arcane system than switch to a new one, which might have flaws of its own. If we can't get rid of the penny, we can't scrap the Electoral College, so why try?" To do so would involve a change in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, lays out the detail of the Electoral College, and whatever benefit isn't worth the trouble of doing that. So why go through the trouble to change something that's been in place for so long, only to bring about more problems? It's the best of what we got. Finally, the reason why direct vote would not work is because other countries have tried it before. First of all, few democracies have a direct elect presidential system. This shows that many countries like the United States might agree with the fact that direct voting doesn't always work. Finland, Russia, and France have all had direct elect presidential systems. France actually abolished direct election in 1962. A direct voting system would harm the U.S. because it causes regions rather than individual states to determine the outcome. So regions with the higher population would actually be determining the outcome of the election rather than the rest of the states with smaller populations. So according to William C. Kimberling, Deputy Director of FEC National Clearinghouse on Election Administration, without the Electoral College, a unifying mechanism seems especially prudent in the view of severe regional problems that have typically plagued geographically large nations such as China, India, and the Soviet Union, and to its time the Roman Empire. So if direct voting could lead us to regional problems that have given other countries problems in the past, why should we risk changing our current voting system? So now I'll give some disadvantages of the direct voting system. The first being small states will lose their significance. Now this is mentioned a lot earlier before, and it's one of the main reasons why the Electoral College was created in the first place. If we were to switch to a direct voting system, that would mean candidates would only have to campaign in large states, because that's where the majority of the population is. The top 9 states contain more than half of the U.S. population, which would make the small states' votes irrelevant. What's wrong with this is that 1/5 of the states could determine the outcome for the rest of the country. David Lovelace of the Prodigal believes the states make the nation, not the nations the states. Last I checked, we are a united nation of 50 states, not 9. So each state should have an equal say in who should be running the nation. Also, since minority groups tend to concentrate in certain states, candidates cater to their interests in order to earn their vote for the electoral. These interest groups include labor unions, farmers, environmentalists, and they also include ethnic minorities. By switching to a direct election, it would actually damage the minority interests, since their votes would be overwhelmed by a national popular majority. The second disadvantage is direct voting allows for multiple party candidates, leading to political instability. Third parties can often have a bit more radical and extremist views, and by using a direct voting process, the third parties aren't forced to into one of the major political parties that this would lead to a political instability from the consensus. Lastly, direct voting gives more room for error and fraud. If we were to switch to a direct vote recounting, votes for a close race would be much more difficult to recount. Instead of recounting only votes for states that had a close race between the candidates, we would be having to recount the entire nation's votes, which would take much more time.
I got to cut you off at this point.
All right.
All right, the negative has about 40 seconds of prep time left. 30.